Hey, it's the Ray Rican, and I'm going to show you. This article. I'm going to show you both the. Here's the Fox News um, article. It's start the stopwatch. Here's the Fox News article. I'm going to start here. Well, actually, let me. I'll come back to here. I am going to show you the article. Is this? What's this? It's an opinion piece by someone named Jackie Combs. Column: Why journalists are failing the public with both siderisms in political coverage. Here's the irony, because this person actually thinks that both sides are actually covered. Here's this is the problem when you have these type of extremely biased reporters and journalists. This is why what's going on, they're blaming this is, you got polarization that's going on right now, or politicalization, politicalization that's going on right now. And the divide here is the problem, as I see it, is you have like the New York Times, and here's the Los Angeles Times, and you have CNN and MSNBC. And the problem is there's no both siderisms. There's only one side. And that's the problem. The problem is the the Los Angeles Times probably doesn't have someone that's conservative or libertarian in their editorial space that could have told this lady, look, listen, I respect your opinion. We're probably going to publish and we're going to put it out because we don't censor, unlike you guys. But understand that no, that's not what's going on in the news. When you have, basically mainstream media, except for Fox News, is left leaning. Then you have two other news outlets, OANN and Newsmax, are also on the right. And then you have outlets like CNN and Brian Stelter are calling for those two, for the elimination of those two networks. So, this journalist is just, she tries to go all the way as back as Nixon. But when you start to see what she's talking about, of course, this is the irony. They did not see, I was not a Bush fan whatsoever. Okay. I could not stand George W. Bush as president. And when I lived in Texas and he was a citizen and he was doing stuff for veterans, as a person, I'm sure he's probably a pretty nice guy. As a president, he sucked. Took us out of, took our focus off Afghanistan to put us in Iraq, lied us into war there, just used our goodwill against us. So no, let me circle back with that also going, we also had the death of Colin Powell today. I will not badmouth the dead, but he was part of the problem with the administration. He went to the UN and showed, that vial and thing. So these are people who wanted war. These are people who wanted that new American century. So with that caveat in place, so like I said, I couldn't stand him. Obama got elected, and all of a sudden, all the bad stuff that Bush was doing, like especially like the drone strikes and all that, Obama was still doing. And the media, nothing. The anti-war left, nothing. Okay, so this person here, talks about here. I just want to point out, she goes, by 2012, as President Obama dealt with willful obstructionists, conspiracists, and racist of an increasingly radicalized Republican Party, political scientists, and long respected Washington watchers put the onus for the dysfunction squarely on the GOP in the provocative book, It's Even Worse Than It Looks. Significantly, they implicated journalists. A balanced treatment on an unbalanced phenomenon is a distortion of reality and a disservice to your consumers. It's like, you guys just don't see your own bias. You guys don't see your own bias. And that's why we need, she calls it both siderisms. That's why you need balanced reporting. That's why you need different political persuasions in your newsroom, in your newspaper, in your editorial staff. You need that diversity of thought, not diversity of color, diversity of thought. Because diversity of color doesn't mean shit if everybody thinks the same. You could have a black, a white, a Chinese, whatever. If they all think the same, there is no real true diversity in that newsroom, in that editorial room. None. You need diversity of thought. And this is the problem that goes on. This opinion piece is the fact, this is their blindness. Okay. This is their extreme blindness to their part in this. Like I said, wasn't a fan of Bush. Obama came in, was doing the same stuff that Bush was doing. And then what happens? Nothing from the media. Matter of fact, when Trump did lob missiles into Syria, that was the only time the media praised him, because the media is complicit when it comes to war also, because war is good for their ratings also. Like, war is good for a president, for that administration, because it push-ups their numbers, usually, especially when it's a popular war. And the news doesn't matter, because whether they're covering attacks during the war, like they did during the Gulf War, or whether they're doing coverage of war protests, that's coverage for them. They don't care. War is good for the media. So they're complicit. Yeah, I will tell her that they're complicit, but they're complicit in what they want to cover and what's good for them. So, of course, she wants to blame it, of course it goes to Trump and all that stuff. There was no fair and balanced when Trump was president. There was none. There was, Trump had 2 scoops of ice cream while everybody else had 1. That was an actual headline by CNN complaining about ice cream. But this is, like I said, their own blind spots. Let me go into what they talk about here. So here where she goes, to an extent that journalists and pundits focus critically on President Biden, and Democrats give short shrift to Republican obstructionists, as if the cancer of Trumpism was in remission, if not cured, that indeed distorts reality and deserves readers, listeners, and viewers. Calms repeatedly criticized Republicans, warning that democracy is literally at stake surrounding the GOP's recent election laws. This is a Republican Party that is not serious about governing or addressing the nation's actual problems, as opposed to the Fox ones, like critical rate. Okay, there you go, right there. That, and especially to me, right there, tells me how she's, her bias is right there. She doesn't see it. but that's nothing new. That's always what I'm, it's always what I rile about when it comes to the media, because they sometimes they don't even realize their bias. You look at, like I always say, I always point out, you look at these people who are on the networks, like let's say the big person for ABC, George Stephanopoulos. Who did he work for? The Clintons. He was part of their campaign in the 90s. Chris Cuomo, the brother of Andrew Cuomo. CNN. I mean, you could keep going on with some of these people. A lot of these people, they were former political aides. Now they pass as journalists, and that's where the bias is. Like I said, CNN used to be middle of the road. When they had Glenn Beck, when they had Lou Dobbs, they're not that anymore. Now they just succumb to the left. Same thing like with the New York Times. You had someone that wasn't left enough, Barry Weiss, that she just did an interview with Ben Shapiro. She's not even a right winger. She's a left leaning person that just wasn't left enough for the New York Times, because her big issue was she's Jewish, so she's pro-Israel. Well, if you're pro-Israel, you cannot be a Democrat anymore. It's almost like that right now, basically. But at the end of the day, this is what passes. But this is like I said, it's an opinion piece, but this is what passes for journalism. This is what passes with for journalism. That's it. So I am going to end this because this is a good quote. I want to, I'm gonna conclude it with this, where Jon Stewart scolds media for blaming Trump for nation's divisiveness. Stewart also pointed out also pointedly declined to endorse President Joe Biden for doing an effective job. I don't think anybody is. That's what he said. But this is the good quote that I'm going to end it with there, where he goes. Right, that was it right there. Sorry. I think we all have a bit of a tendency to grant amnesty to the people that are doing things that we would prefer, even if that means that they're doing things that are slightly undemocratic, he said. So I think our focus unhealthily on this one individual comes at the price of systems and dynamics that have been in place long before this cat ever learned how to surf those waves. And he's maybe a comedian, but this is the problem that goes on. Like I said, that's why we need balance. That's why you need, these news organizations need to be more balanced. We need to have more libertarians and Republicans in these spheres. The right needs to fight this culture war, and we need to be in the universities. We need to be in these newsrooms, so like that we could push people, push right-wing culture. Look at like Aaron Lewis. I did a review on Aaron Lewis's song. We need that in the culture. What's his name? McDonald, the rapper. He does funny songs. He does some good songs too. But I'm not a huge rap person. But the songs are, the messages in them are off the hook. So, anyways, media, you guys suck. That's why internet channels, that's why YouTube channels and Rumble channels and podcasts, that's why they're kicking your ass, because people are tired of your bullshit. So anyways, I'm the Right Rican. You can follow me on YouTube and Rumble. You can interact with me on Twitter, Facebook, Gab, and Telegram. All right, that being said, have a good one.